Okay. Scoping. The idea of scoping is after you've done the screening and you've decided you need to do an impact assessment, what are you going to assess? What will be the focus of your environmental impact assessment? And there's a definition that I happen to use. There are variants of it, but it's what you need to study. And with that in mind, let me pause for a moment and flash back to the 1980s. In the 1980s, I remember doing papers and having discussions with others about scoping, and we determined roughly that what you really should be doing is you should be focusing the impact assessment on things that will influence the decision about the project being assessed. Duh. Except, I'm sorry, I missed my opportunity. You've got to focus the impact assessment on what matters. Or else why in the hell are you doing the impact assessment in the first place? Now, so I fast forward from the early to mid-1980s up until the 1990s, and IAA does a study of impact assessment effectiveness around the world and determines that there are 4 things most in need of improvement for more effective EIA, one of which is still scoping.
Bill, wasn't it 1, 2, 3, 4? Just about was, wasn't it?
And yes, but I'm only talking about scoping, so I'm going to do it right yet. Now I fast forward to the 3rd millennium, and I look around and I see so many EIA documents that are thousands of pages long. I heard some new records when I came here to Puebla. Someone described 12,000 page, 14,000 page, and I think somebody else was into 20,000 pages. Well, look, the simplest way of doing that is by covering more than you need. Get back to the principles of the 1980s and do this. It means that you really need to identify the issues and then shrink them down to the ones that really matter. When as I did recently, a few years ago, read an environmental impact assessment with 48 wildlife valued ecosystem components, I don't entirely understand why. I have to tell you, even though we made a ruling on that particular project, I didn't study all of those 48 wildlife components. I figured out some of them that really mattered more than others. Scoping, in my view, really needs to be revisited because practice in 2011 is still suffering from the same flaws that have happened in the past. And I know that there are interesting actions. Ellen Ehrlich has told me about his paper in 48 seconds or less. So I know that he's doing some really exciting work, and I look forward to hearing about how that will develop in terms of doing good scoping and getting guidelines or terms of reference for environmental impact assessments that do focus on things that really matter. And I encourage this as a good orphan, and I apologize for trying to break your equipment with my prop. Thank you.
Next orphan.
Thank you, Will. Well, I normally put up a show, but I'm upstage, so I wouldn't go there, I promise you. I don't know what you're saying. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I was asked to look at significance also and basically check whether significance is an orphan as well, a topic that gets neglected or not considered. And I took it quite seriously, Bill. And I actually did some reading and researching and checked what the world says apart from what I'm saying. And I took it serious, as you will see. So basically, why would significant determination, which is fundamentally at the heart of EIA or any assessment, be considered an orphan? And I basically looked at some quotes, and you'll see that one of the more illustrious writers, Beedlands and Danke, in 1986, already determined that significance is at the heart of EIA. This is a fundamental of what we are up to, is to get to some degree of significance. And then Wood, also an illustrious writer in the field, came up in 2008 and says it's a universal EIA challenge requiring context-specific solutions. So there's no one-shoe-fits-all sort of solution to this one. And a very interesting review by Glasson in 2005 and also by Wood in 2008 says, if you really think about it, significant determination starts with screening, and it works itself through iteratively through the entire process, through alternatives, through the EMP, through all. And basically what they say is, do we really understand this iterative process of significance, or do we lose the baby with the washwater as we move along? Right, is it an orphan? I thought, now what would make significance an orphan? Is it not researched and talked about? Was my first question. Is there stagnation in the field of significance that we haven't moved along? Is it characterized by a significant divide between what we talk about and what we do in practice? And perhaps a complexity of what makes significance significant. And basically what I did is I decided not to look at IIA presentations, but to look at articles and theses and whatever. And what you can see is, since 1975, we've actually seen quite a pinnacle, 2001 to 2005, in terms of outputs, documented outputs. This is 16 volumes, articles or theses or whatever. And we can't say that significance is an orphan because it's not been written about. There's actually an increase in the debate. The question is, what do we write about? Is it something new? And alas, I regret to say, not really. We seem to recirculate and regurgitate the same stuff. Bevan also came up and says, okay, but we have moved on a little bit. In the 70s and the 80s, like, I don't have time to go through all of this, there was a focus. The 90s another focus. In 2000s, the new millennium, there was still a little bit of a development in the debate, but nothing fundamentally so. So, basically, when you go through the literature, you'll see that Wood and Becker says that it remains one of the most complex, contentious, and least understood aspects of EIA, as late as 2008. That makes it more, I would suggest, is that if we, after so many years, do not have a solid theory, solid understanding of how to determine significance, I would suggest that is the hint. Methods of significance determination have been addressed in a partial and preliminary way. That's a major accusation after 20 years of EIA and more, isn't that so? If we look at Lawrence, who has actually written most of the things around 2007, he's a Canadian. He basically wrote and says, the process to be followed is usually described in a cursory manner. This is now in the practical EIAs. And I actually tried to test, I got an email from Bob, he says, yeah, you must check this out. I thought, okay, what is a contentious issue in South Africa? Nuclear power stations. The EIAs are being circulated, we must build 5 of the bloody things. Anyway, so I asked, how many determine significance? It's not your report. No, the experts did that. We didn't put it in the report available to the public. My goodness gracious. I think there's evidence in the South as well. Right. And then, guys, we even see that Lawrence in his analyses in 2007 B and C said, practice tends to be highly variable. There are high points and low points. This matters an orphan, doesn't it? And based on incomplete understanding of the term significance and poor data. Glyn said that in 2004. So what we see, ladies and gentlemen, is as far as significance is concerned, is I think we have an idea, but we don't really know exactly collectively what it's all about. Complexity, I went through literature and basically looked at what are the indicators of significance, and that's my summary to date. My goodness. How any one person can actually consider all of those variables and come up with high, medium, or low is beyond belief.
You need a scoping process now.
I need to go back to screening. I first will have to screen my indicators. So I think we're in the woods here. I think we have really lost ourselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, basically, conclusion is, with some part-time foster parents around, taking significance out of the orphanage every now and then, numerous important matters beg to be adopted. And basically, what I suggest is, if we look at the themes there, if you all would be interested next year at IIA, the themes would be selection of best approaches for practice, adoption to meet context variables. I can't go through the lot, but they are there, and they come from the evidence. Right, and I was shocked when I read Ban Ki-moon's speech 25 years after Chernobyl, when he said, to many nuclear energy looks to be a relatively clean and logical choice, not the greenies though, eh? In an area of increased resource scarcity. Yet, the record requires us to ask painful questions about significance. Have we correctly calculated its risks and costs? And are we doing all we can to keep the world's people safe? After Fukushima, after Chernobyl, for the mega events and the Gulf, I don't think we can, not with the chaos that I've just tried to illustrate to you. Thank you.